On Election Day, 1 week from today, when you go to the polls, you'll see the candidates' names on the front, but be sure to also turn your ballot over.
Yeah, voters are also deciding on a statewide proposal that would boost spending on future environmental-related projects. So what does the proposal mean? Joining us now is the DEC Commissioner, Department of Environmental Conservation, Basil Seggos. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Sabrina, thank you, Mark.
Here's the language on the ballot. To address and combat the impact of climate change and damage to the environment, the Clean Water, Clean Air, and Green Jobs Environmental Bond Act of 2022 authorizes the sale of state bonds up to $4.2 billion to fund environmental protection, natural restoration, resiliency, and clean energy projects. Shall the Environmental Bond Act of 2022 be approved?
So if it passes, here's what all of that means. $4.2 billion in general obligation bonds for projects related to going towards climate change mitigation. So let's talk with the Commissioner about this a little bit more. It's a lot of words. So for people to fully digest and understand, what does that really mean?
Sure. Well, listen, New York has suffered some serious storms in the last decade. You know, you had Superstorm Sandy 10 years ago. You had Hurricane Ida last year, multi-billion-dollar storms. What we're talking about now is getting ahead of the problem, right? Investing in the landscape, investing in our communities so the impact of climate change is less. Reduce floods, invest in hidden infrastructure like wastewater, sewage, and ultimately give our communities a chance to survive these intense storms.
And this has already passed the legislature.
Yes.
It now needs to be approved by voters. A Siena survey asked whether people approve or not. 54% of voters supported it, 26 opposed it. What do you say to the 26 who opposed it, Commissioner?
Well, listen, it's always good to spend money now, proactively, as opposed to waiting to have to recover.
It's more expensive when it's an emergency.
Right, that's why we go to the doctor,
yeah,
right? I mean, we have an emergency, effectively, we will have an emergency. So a $70 billion storm, that was Sandy. Hurricane Ida last year, $75 billion. You know, we are paying for these storms at an increasing rate if we wait. If we invest now in our landscape to control where water goes, we make our state effectively better off, especially the economy.
If this passes, it'll be the first time an Environmental Bond Act is passed in New York since 26 years.
That's right.
So for people to fully understand, are the projects already picked out, or can they fully understand what this money is exactly going towards?
We have literally hundreds of projects in mind across the state. Every single community has been subject to severe weather of one kind or another. We're talking about every one of those communities getting a chance to effectively rebuild the right way, become more resilient, and also enable themselves to prosper economically and not be knocked offline for weeks or months on end.
Would we see the impacts here in the capital region?
We absolutely would. There's no doubt about it. I mean, we suffered severely 11 years ago, Irene and Lee, right? Those storms that came through here. These dollars would go right into watershed protection, hidden infrastructure like pipes, wastewater plants. It really put us at a competitive advantage over most other states.
Getting back to the money, since this was proposed and passed by the legislature, we've seen a worsening of the economy. Should we be investing $4.2 billion at a time when interest rates are rising so much, Commissioner?
Good point, but I would say better to put $4.2 billion towards a problem now than to have to spend $70 or $100 billion later, right? So this is a wise investment in the future of the state. I'm sure the voters will see it like that.
Lastly, let's say this doesn't pass. What position does that put us in?
Well, listen, we're now on a reactive footing, largely. I mean, the governor has succeeded in passing record environmental budgets over the years, $400 million EPF, $4.5 billion towards clean water. It's all been very effective. But the legislature and the governor recognize we have a serious problem on our hands that when it comes to climate change, severe weather, and this puts us then that proactive footing, allows us to save all those dollars long run.
And a reminder to turn that ballot over.
Yeah. Second page. That's right.
Commissioner Basil Seggos of the DEC, thank you very much.
Mark, thank you, Sabrina.